Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the Looks Like On podcast. Today we have Nidhi Kapoor. She is a hypnotherapist and certified coach by Mind Valley. I met her through this charity called Mission Save a Life, whose purpose it is to raise awareness on mental health. And they hooked me up with two awesome podcast guests. One was Luke Isaac, and this time we have Nidhi Kapoor, both living in the UK actually. In this episode, Nidhi shares some great stories about her own physical healing, her struggle with conceiving children and how she solved it, how to deal with kids when they are throwing tantrums, which is normal because they're kids, and some very helpful tips on how to deal with negative self-talk. I'm really excited to share this video because I know somebody somewhere will benefit from this. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Nidhi today. She's also from Mind Valley. We've had a couple of guests from Mind Valley here, and they've always been really great conversations. So I'm really excited for this. So thank you so much, Nidhi. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, thank you, Nick. Thank you very much for having me on this, and I'm really excited.
I just watched one of your clips. It was about self-talk.
Yes, absolutely. I do put a lot about self-talk. Actually, I'm a big believer in positive self-talk. In fact, it's quite funny because before I got on this, I've just recorded something which is again about self-talk, because I think you can never talk enough about positive self-talk. I think a lot of us, our negative self-talk is a reason a lot of times we just end up being anxious and worried.
I want to mention something. Somebody close to me, I think, should really pay attention to this episode, especially if we're talking about self-talk. I have two members of my family that the way they talk to each other is in a joking way, devaluing each other, and they think it's funny, but I think it's having actually negative consequences in the long term. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Let's use a metaphor to explain that. Imagine your mind is like a garden, right? And anybody who's got any interest in gardening would know this. You've got flowers in the garden. Now, flowers are what we really, all of us like, and it's beautiful, it's pretty and all that. And we want to keep them. But you've also got weeds in the garden. Now, nobody actually likes weed. So the first thing we try and do is take those weeds out as soon as we can, because why would you want weeds in your garden, right? They're going to kill the flowers eventually, and they don't make your garden look pretty. Now, use that for your mind. So all those flowers, the beautiful flowers, they're all your positive thoughts, right? It's the good things you say to yourself, the motivating things, the positive things you say to yourself. And all of those weeds, they are just basically those negative thoughts. Now, it's whether somebody else says something negative to you or whether you say that to yourself. And the problem is, a lot of times, one of the two things happens. It's either we say those negative things to ourselves. So, I was saying this to somebody else the other day. I'm a busy mom. I've got two kids under 4, and I do a lot of other things as well. So I've got literally no time, and I've got to be super planned and organized all the time. But the other day, and I talk about positive self-talk, so I should know better, but this is what, I'm a human after all, right? So this is what we do. So the other day, I'm rushing my kids to nursery and stuff, and I'm trying to do other things. And I had a meeting straight after sending them to nursery. So I'm just rushing around and trying to get everything done. And there's this box of cereal that my little one had kept somewhere that it shouldn't be where it was. So I knocked that over. And as a result, there's cereal now everywhere on the floor, which would take another 15, 20 minutes of just me cleaning up the area and all of that. Now, this is something that's happened. It's nobody's fault. My daughter is 3 years old, so she doesn't really know that much just yet. And she didn't do it intentionally. So things happen, right? So things have happened. My immediate thought was negative self-talk. And I was like, why did I have to do that? I've not got time. This is going to take me an extra 10 minutes now. How stupid can you be? Couldn't you be careful? And then I almost had to stop myself and go, what on earth am I doing? Why am I being so critical? Because if that was a friend telling me that this had happened to them, I would be saying something like, oh, things like this happen and you're rushed off your feet. You're trying to do 20 things at the same time. Just be nice to yourself. Be kind to yourself, You didn't do it intentionally. And yes, it's going to take you an extra 10, 15 minutes, but so what? You're working so hard, right? And I thought that's what I would say to a friend. And we'll all do that because we're nice people. If somebody is negative and they're telling us that they're negative and they've got these negative self-talk happening, we'll say, oh, come on, you're so much better than that. Look at so many other positive things you're doing. Come on, you're going to get through this. But we're quite okay with having all that negative self-talk. So I think the first problem is we don't realize, but we need to have that self-compassion, because this negative self-talk is just not helping us. It's not helping us in any way, shape, or form. And then the second thing, which is back to the example or what you were just saying, sometimes we think it's okay to have that negative talk because, we're just joking. We're not serious. We're just joking. But the interesting thing here is, and I'm a hypnotherapist, so I know and work a lot with the subconscious mind. So I know how subconscious mind works. And what I know for a fact is, your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between reality and visualization. So, try this if you want. Just imagine you're sucking on a lemon, for example. Now you don't have a lemon, you're just imagining that. And if you imagine that powerfully enough, you're actually going to feel the taste of that lemon. It's just like sometimes, you've had a really good meal. 3 days after that, you're like, I can feel I've still got the taste in my mouth of that meal. Well, you've not got that food, but you've got that in your imagination. So when somebody is saying something which is negative to you, your subconscious isn't actually understanding, oh, this is just a joke. This is not reality. This is just, they're just saying that for the sake of saying it. They don't mean it. Your subconscious mind is taking it all in. So if you're telling me, if you're constantly telling me, don't be such a fool, Nidhi, and you don't mean it, you're just laughing about it, you're just joking about it. Now, my mind is constantly hearing, you're a fool, you're a fool, you're a fool, or you're an idiot, you're an idiot. So what's my mind now thinking? Those beliefs now is very much, you're an idiot. So my mind isn't thinking, oh yeah, Nick was just joking about it. He didn't mean it. It's just thinking, well, people think you're an idiot. So that's what I'm going to start believing. So we've just got to be a bit more careful about what we are saying and how we're saying it to people.
Like, why do you think it might be so easy sometimes for us to slip into negative self-talk? Like, like when I think about it right now, it almost feels like part of me feels that I deserve to be talked to that way or something like that.
It's us being human, it's why do we sometimes think that it's okay for me to talk to myself like that, or it's okay for somebody else to talk to me like that? I think the underlying factor, the root cause to all of this. So what we know is there are 3 core beliefs that every human has. Maybe not every, maybe, there might be a 0.1% of people who don't. But I deal with a lot of people because I'm a life coach, but I'm also a hypnotherapist. So I come across a lot of people, and most of them have got limiting beliefs. And those limiting beliefs, they can, they can come out in various shapes and forms. So what you just said, why do I almost think it's okay for me to talk to myself like this? Or why do I think I deserve it? I think the reason could be that the underlying factor is this belief of thinking I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not intelligent enough. I don't deserve good things happening. The root cause is all down to the fact that I don't think I'm enough just as I am. And so therefore, if I'm not enough, everything else that's happening around me that shouldn't be happening or is wrong, that's still fine because that's my problem. I'm not enough. And I think when we change that thought, or if we're able to change that thought, it changes our life completely.
Right. Yeah, because it makes me think, like, why did I ever think I was not enough? Like, was I born as a baby already believing that I wasn't enough, or did I learn that along the way?
You see, that's quite an interesting thought. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but from birth, and sometimes even before the time of birth, when a child is in their mother's womb, and sometimes when you hypnotize people, they actually go back to those memories. Believe it or not, human mind is amazing. But right from when we're born till about the age of 7-ish, a child actually uses their subconscious mind more than they use their conscious mind. So all your beliefs, believe it or not, all your beliefs are formed up until the age of 7. And a belief that you form, let's say when you were, just for example, 3 years old, that can live with you for the rest of your life. So you might be doing something in your life at the age of 43 because of a belief that you formed when you were 3 years old. Right. So, and I'll give you a live example. So I worked with a client and she was struggling with weight. She tried every single diet on the planet, right? Keto, paleo, whatever. I'm not into diets. I don't know all of them, but she told me about all the different things, liquid diet, shakes diet, this and that. Nothing was working. And what we found out when we were talking was nothing is working because the problem isn't actually her diet. The problem is her mindset around the diet. So when she went into hypnosis, what came out was that her parents separated when she was quite young. But basically, she didn't see her father much when she was growing up. And every time she saw her father, it was dad would come and give her chocolates. Dad would come and, take her out for nice meals, shakes, and all that stuff. So her little mind, even at the age of like 4 or 5, her little mind is thinking, I am going to associate all the sugary stuff, nice stuff to my dad's love. Because what happens every time dad comes to me or sees me is I get all the sugary, nice stuff. So her little mind has associated that sugar, that nice stuff as that comfort or dad's love. So, of course, if your mind thinks the sugary stuff is dad's love, it's never going to let go of that. You'll always have those cravings, no matter what else you do. But that was okay when she was 4 years old because, a child's mind doesn't understand the depth of all of this. But she's now in her mid-30s and she knows that is not the case. Dad's love is not equal to sugary stuff that dad used to give. That was just a way of him expressing his love. So, of course, now that she understands the reasons why, it's changed things completely. So that, that feeling of I'm not enough. Why did you have that? When did you develop that? Well, you could have developed that when you were a little child because of something that's happened. Generally, kids develop this feeling when some of their needs are not met. When they were a child, some needs aren't met. That then could lead to them developing the feeling of I am not good enough, or I'm not enough, or I will not get something in my life ever. And therefore, something isn't going to be available to me. I mean, I speak to so many people who basically self-sabotage, especially when it comes to money. They could be making a lot of money, but then right at the end, when they're signing that deal or something, they'll just go and mess something up. They don't want to, but they end up messing things up. And so they go, why can't I just make money? Why can I just not do that? I'm so close to it. Why can't I make money? And that could be down to their subconscious belief that what I want is not available to me, and therefore I'm going to mess this up. So that money I want is not available. And that could be something quite simple as when they were growing up, parents were struggling financially. And so they would go, we can't have this, or you can't have this because we don't have money for this. Or how do you think, we get all this money? Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is not available. So you've got this deep-rooted belief now that money is not available to me. So of course, I am going to do everything in my subconscious power to stop me getting that money because I've got this belief that money is not available to me. Now, if you change that belief, you can take somebody from self-sabotage to that road of abundance and removing the money blocks. But it all comes down to beliefs.
Yeah, well, like, what can somebody do in those moments where they don't feel enough? Is there, I don't know, like an exercise that you recommend or something that we can do to remind ourselves of our worth?
Yeah, I mean, so there's two things here. If you genuinely feel like this is a big issue, and I'm not saying this just because I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm saying this because I do understand how powerful your subconscious mind is. And if you think there is something that's really stopping you, there is a big block, seek professional help, because that's where somebody can actually help you understand your mind better and understand why you're carrying these beliefs and can help you get rid and overcome these beliefs, which, like I said, it can be life-changing when that happens. But if it's not such a big issue and, something simple you can do, I think a lot of times this feeling of I am not enough is because we have a thought. Now, we have, I think on an average, about 60,000 thoughts a day. So we have lots and lots of thoughts a day. And those thoughts are just that, they're just thoughts. When we attach emotions to it, that's when a thought becomes a belief. So you have a thought, you attach an emotion to it. So I'll give you an example. So I just had a thought right now. For example, I am thinking, do you know what? I'm just struggling a bit. I'm struggling to cope with. I've got a lot going on today. You know, we're doing this bit. I've got 2 meetings after this. My kids would be coming back, so I'm just thinking of all of this. And this is just a thought. There's a lot going on. My day is quite chocker today. Now that's fine. It's just a thought. We all have them. Now I'm attaching an emotion to it, and the emotion could be I'm stressed, I'm sad, I'm depressed because I'm struggling to cope because I've got a lot going on. Oh my God, now this is, I'm just struggling because how am I going to manage this? And then that, and then that. So I'm now attaching, or I've started to attach emotions to this thought. Now, what will happen is I'll start forming beliefs. A belief could be something like, do you know what? I always struggle to cope with things. I'm always on the edge all the time. I must be rubbish at all of this. I'm just not good at managing too many things. I should probably not even do this do you see where I'm going with this? So I just had a simple thought that I've got a lot going on today, or I've got a busy day. I attach an emotion to it, and now it becomes a belief. So the challenge here is that when you have a thought, before you let it turn it into a belief, stop it. Like, be a thought inspector, if you like. So when you have a negative thought, just stop it in its track and go, hang on a minute. So I've got this thought, it's turning into a negative thought, but what evidence do I actually have that this thought is true? So before I start, in my mind, catastrophizing about the whole thing, if I go, I'm just not good at multitasking. I'm not good at managing a lot of things at the same time. I just go, okay, hang on a minute, Nidhi. What's the evidence that this is true? So you ask yourself that question, and then you seek evidence to the contrary. So for example, using that example, I'll go, okay, so what's the evidence that I'm rubbish at multitasking? Well, other than me just feeling a bit overwhelmed right now, there isn't actually any evidence. And let me think about all the times that I've been great at multitasking. Well, guess what? I multitask pretty much every single day. And most of the time, I'm able to do a great job at it. So you see what I've done there? I've stopped a thought in its track. I've questioned its validity. And then I've sought evidence to the contrary. So all of a sudden, I'm taking my mind from a very negative space and going down a deep negative hole to going, oh, hang on a minute. How is this even true? Let's look at something that tells me this isn't true. So automatically, I've taken my mind and taken it from something negative to something that's now positive. And therefore, I've stopped going into that feeling of I'm just not enough. I'm just rubbish. I'm just not good enough. So you have to stop it in its track.
It's like learning how to be skeptical of our own thoughts.
Absolutely. I think the first thing is actually realizing we're doing it, because a lot of times we don't realize we're being so negative. And it's only when we actually, train ourselves to get better at that, then we go, oh, what am I just doing there? Let's stop. Let's stop this negative thought in its track. And I think the other thing that can really help people, as in general, I would say, is when you have a negative thought, and you then start associating a feeling to it, and you start giving it power, try to distance yourself from that feeling. So what I mean by that is, let's say I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, right? Instead of then thinking, I'm just overwhelmed, I'm rubbish, I can't handle this, I can't do this, right? Just acknowledge, do you know what? I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. But that's all it is. So take that feeling of overwhelm and keep it to a side and distance yourself from it. So I am not sad, I'm just feeling sad. These are two completely different things. I am not sad. I've just got this feeling right now of sadness. So I'm distancing myself from that feeling. You see what I mean? So if you're able to distance yourself from that emotion, you're able to see things for what they are, rather than go deep down that hole where you just get consumed by that feeling.
Right. If you say like, I am sad, it's like you identify as someone who is sad.
Yeah. It's a feeling. You're distancing yourself. So you're not sad. You're just feeling sad right now. And that's okay. But if you say it like that, instead of saying, I am sad, you just say, I am feeling sad. then it's just a feeling. It's just that moment. I'm just feeling something that moment, and that's completely fine. We're humans. We're supposed to feel.
Mhm.
That's just an emotion I'm feeling right now. So I'm not sad. I'm just feeling a bit sad right now. So I'm feeling sad. So my emotion, I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm just saying I'm going to distance myself as a person from that emotion. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I wish like why don't we learn this stuff in school? Like I guess like my
Yes.
my teacher would say it's because the like most teachers don't know it either, but I don't know. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I spent a lot of time studying human mind because I love that kind of stuff. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to human mind. So when I do, when I put videos and stuff on my channel, it's all around personal growth, positivity, human mind, subconscious mind. And the more I learn, the more I understand how little we know about all this stuff. But if we were told this, when we were kids, I think it would change the game completely. I mean, like I said, I've got two young ones, so both my kids are under the age of 4. And it's that age where I know that they are forming beliefs in their subconscious mind, which will be with them for the rest of their life, probably. Now, if I didn't know what I know today, I'll probably. So the other day, my little one cried,
Mm.
and she's coming up to 4 now, and she had a proper full-on outburst, right? And if I didn't know what I know now, I'd be getting really mad at her. I'll be getting annoyed with her, and I'll be going, just stop crying. And why are you crying? Because I'm refusing to give you or buy you that toy. You've got 20 of them or similar ones already, so I'm not going to give it to you. She's having a proper emotional outburst and stuff. Now, because I know how beliefs and patterns are formed, but also I know sometimes it's important to educate our kids that it's okay to feel emotions. So I don't want to shut off her emotions. I don't want to go, oh, don't cry, good girls don't cry, big girls
Mm.
don't cry, because then I'm sending all the wrong messages. Of course, I cry, and it's perfectly normal and natural to cry because it's a way you express yourself. Now, I
Mm.
don't want to tell her that you're a big girl because you're coming up to 4 and you shouldn't cry. Well, of course, it's fine because she's going to then start, or she'll learn to bottle that emotions inside of her. And that is completely what I don't want. So, what I said to her is, baby, you're feeling emotional right now. You want to cry. Do you know what? Mama is right here. You cry for as long as you want. And when you're ready to talk, I'm going to be right here. And I'm going to be waiting for you to stop crying so then we can have a conversation. And she cried for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And then I allowed her to release and express those emotions. So after 2 or 3 minutes, she stopped crying. And then she said to me, instead of going, Mama, can I have the toy? She said, Mama, can I have a cuddle? I'm like, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely, baby, you can have a cuddle. Because now she's realized that Mama's given me space to cry, to get my emotions out. She's told me I'm not going to have that toy. She's given me the reason behind it. So there's no point in me asking for it again. But I feel overwhelmed. And what's going to make me feel better is my mother's cuddle. So she said, can I have that cuddle? Can I have a cuddle? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And we just hugged and we did nothing else for the next few minutes. And that's all that child needed. But because we're conditioned that way, and nobody actually tells us, look, it's okay for a child to express their emotion. Don't stop them. Don't tell them, oh, you're a big girl, you shouldn't be crying. Big girls don't cry. We're not taught that stuff, are we? We're not taught how to be good parents. But it's only when you start learning how things you're doing to your kids is impacting them, not just the here and now, but for the rest of their hopefully long, beautiful life. If you knew all that, you'd be completely changing the way you do a lot of things.
It's a powerful story, and I feel your kid is really lucky to have you as their mom.
Oh, thank you. I still make loads of mistakes, but then I coach myself and go, that's how I should not have done it.
Mm.
The other thing I think a lot of parents feel that way is we should never have to apologize to our kids, because if we tell them to do something, they should be doing it. And if they don't do it, well, you should be doing what you're told to do. And if you're not doing it, well, there's just no good enough reason, because I'm your parent and I'm telling you to do something, just do it unconditionally. You don't have the right to question me. And I remember my mother came to live with us for a couple of months. So she lives in India, and I'm in the UK. So she was with me, and she's observing an interaction between me and my daughter. And she said to me later on, something happened. I can't quite remember what happened, but I said something to my daughter that I shouldn't have. and because she was getting emotional and upset and everything, I said something to her that I shouldn't have. It was, and then I thought to myself, didn't handle that well, did you? So I actually said to my daughter, I said, baby, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that to you. Mama's really sorry. Is that okay? Will you forgive me? And she turned around and said, that's okay, Mama. I'm sorry too. Because she'd done something and I completely lost my cool, and I shouted at her or something. That's coming back to me, and I shouldn't have done that. And so after I'd calmed down, I said, baby, I'm sorry. And so she said, that's okay, Mama, I'm sorry too. And my mother never said anything to me. But later on, she said to me, why did you apologize to your daughter? She was like, she was getting on your nerves. I could see that. And what you did was more a spur of the moment thing, but you didn't have to apologize to her. And I said, well, technically, no, I could have got away without apologizing to her. But what I wanted her to know and to see was that it's okay to be vulnerable. Mama's made a mistake. So Mama's quite happy to admit that I have made a mistake. And what that is teaching her is that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to own up to your mistakes. You don't have to be, you don't always have to justify something wrong that you have done, because sometimes all you need to do is just say, do you know what? I messed that up and I'm sorry. And that's all the other person needs to hear. And then, you get more respect for that. So sometimes it's about how we bring up our kids and what we show them and how we act as role models. And that will stay with them for the rest of their life.
That's true. Dang. I wanted to ask you, if you could tell us briefly your journey towards becoming a therapist and then later a coach, because you're both of them, right?
Yes, yeah. So very briefly, so I have been in the corporate world for about 20 years now. 15 out of those 20 years have been in corporate leadership positions. So I've kind of handled big teams. I've managed teams of about 200 people. So I've always been in big leadership roles. And it was great, and I enjoy all of that. I absolutely love working with people. I love taking something, because what I've done for a lot of my corporate life is I've taken brands and things that have been failing or haven't been doing so well, and I've turned them around. But I've not done that myself. I've done that with my team. So I always have liked taking people on this journey with me, where we've taken something which is, failing, falling, and we've converted into something beautiful. Now, when you're doing that and you're working with all of those people, you have to manage people, because that's primarily what your job is as a leader. You have to manage people. You have to get the best out of them, and you have to take them to that next level. And what I found was a lot of what I was doing, coaching isn't necessarily called coaching in all its forms. Sometimes it's leadership, because as a leader, if you're doing your job right and you're taking the people on a journey to let's say to come, and you've got a vision as a leader, and from going to where you start to where you end, you have to take people on a journey. Now, if you're doing that well, you end up coaching them anyway. So coaching isn't something which is new to me. I've been doing that for a lot of time, and it's the impact that that's had on people. And I get a lot of I used to get a lot of comments when I was in those positions, where people said, you've changed my life, and you've seen potential in me that others haven't seen, and you've helped me develop. So it's always great to hear that, because that's what you want as a person, as a leader. You want to be able to make that positive impact on somebody's life. But the reason I moved from my corporate career to hypnotherapy, coaching, and all of that is because, I've had my personal struggles with conceiving. So I tried to have kids for 6 years. And in those 6 years, I had about 6 attempts at IVF. And so it was a really challenging journey for me and my husband, just being able to have kids. And while I'm doing all of that, I'm also very busy in my work and managing brands and turning them around, but at the same time struggling with all my personal things. What I realized was, so this is right at the end of my 6th attempt, when I still remember I was we right at the end stage of IVF, you have egg retrieval. So I still remember they put you under anesthesia. So I'm still just waking up, and the doctor came into the room and he said, "Oh, Mrs. Kapoor, we haven't been able to retrieve any eggs." And this is like the 6th attempt now, and I'm going, what, how did this happen? Because you were doing all the checks and everything was fine. And he said, well, I don't know. He just shrugged his shoulders, and I said, what are my options now? And this is me still, a bit delusional, still not quite in my senses, because I've just woken up. And he's just, shaking his head, and he walked out. And And that was like my world collapsed. Everything that I wanted is just like coming to an end. And I remember the week after that, I was in probably the darkest time of my life, because I just thought, how can this be? Because, I've always wanted to be a mother. I wanted to have kids, and I've done absolutely everything. And it's been a really tough, challenging journey for the last 6 years. And anyone who's been through IVF would know what I mean when I say it's harder emotionally than it is physically. So I'm in this really dark, deep place in my life. And then all of a sudden, I think I watched a video or something, and I had a light bulb moment. And I just thought to myself, do you know the problem? Because up until that point, I had literally every single test that they could possibly do done, and there was nothing wrong with me or my husband. So it was unexplained, basically. And so I'm just thinking, if there's nothing wrong with me or with my husband, and we've tried everything, and we've tried, IVF, and through some of the best hospitals here and stuff, what is wrong with me? And then it occurred to me that actually what's wrong, because I was watching this video, or I can't remember whether I was watching or hearing something, but somebody was talking about subconscious mind, and that's when it clicked for me. The problem wasn't actually with my body, the problem was with my mind. And I had these, I don't know how I got these beliefs, but then I had these beliefs that I cannot be a mother. So even though I wanted it, I had this deep rooted belief that I cannot be a mother. So of course, that was stopping everything working out for me. And when I understood that, that was like a light bulb moment. So then I understood I had actually to work on my mind, not my body. I'd got it all wrong. I'd been working on my body. I'd been going through this, this whole IVF thing, but I'd done nothing for my mind. I'd done nothing to overcome my limiting beliefs. So for the 3 months after that, I did absolutely nothing but actually studied about subconscious mind, about how limiting beliefs can actually change you, how they can impact your life, how you need to overcome those limiting beliefs. I studied a lot. I worked with some people. I worked with a coach as well. And so all of that happened. And I remember 3 months after that, I said to my husband, I said, do you know what? I'm going to be a mother, and I'm going to have kids. And he's like, hey, well, what's wrong with you? That was his first reaction. What's happened? And I said, well, I'm just telling you, this is going to happen. And I had this unshakable belief that I am going to be a mother. And I told my husband, and then I announced it to him. I said, look, I'm going to be a mother. We're going to be parents. I don't yet know how that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And I remember this was kind of 2019, around October, November time, when I said this to my husband. Because at one point we were even thinking about adopting and stuff. Now I'm all for adopting, but it just didn't feel right for me. So I said to him, I said, look, let's not talk about that just now. I know I'm going to have kids, and we're going to not, we're going to be parents. And so this is happening around October, November time. And I remember I was still in work. So all of December, we used to get extended break in December. So for those 15 days, I did absolutely nothing, just researched which were the places where I could go for IVF, because I'd given up hope here in the UK because of, my experience and everything. But I knew what I needed to change, and I was already working on it. So I knew this was going to work for me. So I just had to make sure I'm doing everything I can to help me. So anyway, so I worked on it, and we went somewhere else for IVF, and it worked for us the very first time. So I had my first daughter, and then from the same cycle, a couple of years later, I had my second daughter. But that, for me, was when I actually changed my mind. And when I understood how powerful your subconscious mind is and how that controls everything else that happens in your life. So I thought, once I'd done that, and also when I had my second daughter, there were some complications because of issues in the hospital and, staff shortages and stuff. So, it ended up where I had a normal delivery and everything. I have, for both my kids, I've not had any, painkillers or anything, no epidurals, no nothing. Because by that time, I'd learned how you can control your mind to help you with the whole labor process as well. But then when I had my second daughter, things got complicated because of the hospital didn't have staff, so they had to stop start kind of thing, and so it got to a point where I had to be operated just straight after delivery, and the doctor told me, you've lost 50% of your blood, so you're going to be here for the next at least week, if not more. And I'm like, no, I'm going home tomorrow. He said, you crazy, you can't go home tomorrow, you've lost 50% of your blood, did you not hear me? And I said, well, I heard you, but I'm telling you right now, I've got another daughter, and my other daughter was only like just under 2 when I had my second daughter, and said, I've got another daughter, I'm going to be home tomorrow, and you will be discharging me. He said, well, we'll see. So they moved me to this intensive unit where I had 2 midwives and stuff. Normally, they would just send you back to the unit where you're sharing, a ward with other people, with other new mothers. Anyway, so they moved me there just to keep an eye on me because, I was supposed to be this person who was really flimsy because I'd lost so much blood, etc., etc. But at the same time, because I now knew how powerful my mind was, I was constantly commanding my mind that, what, I'm fine, I'm healed, and I'm going home tomorrow. So it came to the point where they had moved me to this ward. I think it was around midday anyway, that they moved me there. And the midwives came to me at 7 o'clock and they said, do you mind if we move you to the normal ward? Because we don't know how, but you seem so well for somebody who's just delivered a baby and has lost so much blood. So we don't know what you're doing, but we've got no reason to keep you here. So do you mind if we move you? And I was like, no, absolutely fine. Just move me to the normal, ward. So they did that. And then the doctors did their checks and everything. And the following morning around midday, they came to me and they said, we don't know what you've done, Mrs. Kapoor, but your vitals are all absolutely fine. We have got no reason to keep you here because you're not showing any signs that suggest to us that we should be keeping you here. So do you know what? You are actually free to go. So they discharged me as I told them they would the very next day. So I came home and literally I had a day's rest. And from the following day, I was, back on my feet, working and everything. Now, I always share that story with people because I think a lot of times people need hope. And when you share your story with people, it gives them hope. It tells them what a human mind is capable of achieving. And so the reason and apologies because this is a very long answer to your question, but I just wanted to give some backstory so people understand really why I am so passionate about what I do is because I am the person who's gone through this. And so therefore, I know how powerful your mind is. So for me, then, I wanted to make sure that what I have got, I can share it with other people. So I needed to make sure I studied it. I've got a structure. So then I studied under Marissa Peers. Now, Marissa Peers she's world renowned, I think, but she's very well known within the UK. From what I understand, she's actually also the therapist for British royalty. So
Wow.
I studied hypnotherapy and her method and everything. So I work with a lot of people now and I help them overcome their limiting beliefs. And I've seen transformations. I've seen people change massively, even in like a 2-hour or less than 2-hour session. If you go onto my website, there's a testimonial from somebody who suffered for the last like 10, 12 years. She's suffered from tinnitus. And she's only young, she's in her mid-30s. And that's really affected her quality of life. And she's done one session with me, which was like less than 2 hours. And she's given me a testimonial, which is a beautiful one. And she said, my tinnitus isn't 100% gone. It's a lot better. However, something shifted in me and I'm actually not even thinking about my tinnitus. It doesn't even bother me anymore. So basically, when, for me, it was then a journey of how can I help other people experience what I've experienced in life. And so there's plenty of testimonials on my website where people have just experienced how powerful that is. Now, for me, the natural part. So and you mentioned that I'm both a therapist and a coach. And the reason I've done both and I've studied both is because what I find is sometimes as a therapist, it's more about you take somebody where they are today and where they want to go. Now, that journey is the forward journey. And that is where I help them with my coaching. So this is where I am today. This is where I want to go. And that is a way forward. And that's all coaching. But what I found was a lot of people have got those beliefs that stop them from moving forward. And that's where therapy is really helpful because therapy helps you go into the past and kind of, like you dig out weeds, you almost dig out all those limiting beliefs, you change those limiting beliefs. And so therefore, once you've cleared all that burden on all those limiting beliefs from your past, you're well and truly in the present then. And when you're well and truly in the present, you can then move forward. So what I do is combine both. Not everybody needs therapy and not everybody needs coaching, but I do both depending on what people actually need. So it kind of works really well for me to do both.
It's kind of like as someone is going towards their goal, there's like sometimes there's some things like pulling us back, and I guess that's when the therapy comes in, right? And you help them like
Exactly.
break those
Yeah.
chains.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are, because the thing is, you can't move forward unless you're well and truly in the present. And if something's pulling you back, you've got to stop what that is first. So then you can actually move forward. And so
Hmm.
that, that unchaining yourself, if you like, that's the therapy part. And then coaching part is actually moving forward,
Hmm.
empowering yourself to go there or get there.
It's awesome. Wow, we hit some really awesome topics today, especially, yeah, I wasn't expecting like a quantum healing story. It's pretty amazing. Wow.
Thank you.
Because like the belief that you used to have about that you could not be a mother, it turned into like a physical self-sabotage, right?
And that is the key. We always underestimate how powerful our subconscious is. Your subconscious can actually make you have physical changes in your body. It can make you do things or not do things. And
Hmm.
it's so powerful that it impacts you physically. So people just think, oh yeah, it's just mind, it doesn't matter. It is really powerful. But on the flip side, if you know how to harness that power, you can make anything happen for you.
Right. So a few months ago, before going on a hike, I got this really bad food poisoning, like the night before the hike. And I was just like in pain in my bed with this terrible stomach ache, and I could hear this negative dialogue in my mind say something like, "You deserve to feel this. You deserve to be suffering, and that's why you're suffering." Um, Luckily, I was able to hear it say that and question it. Like, but do I though? Do I really deserve this? Maybe I deserve to heal. And like, yeah, like after questioning it, I was able to actually recover and go on the hike the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful stuff, isn't it? When you know how to change that internal dialogue. It's like you change the channel on TV or something. You go from something that you don't want to see, something that's boring, to then something that it's exciting, it's keeping you interested, and stuff like that. But it's just, how do you do that? And it's knowing that. And once we truly understand that, it changes your life for the better.
Mhm. That's awesome. We're gonna have to wrap this up in a bit, but is there any final message you would want to send to our listeners about the subconscious?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things I would say. The first one is, subconscious is complicated, but it's not, once you know what you're doing with your subconscious, right? So the best way to do this is two things. If you want to be in a good state, right? I won't say all the time, because we can never be in a great state all the time. We're human beings, we'll feel emotions and everything, right? But if you want to feel you're in a good state, if you want to feel you're in an abundant state, I think the one very powerful thing that I don't think people do enough, and I wish people would do more, is always start your day and end your day if you can. But if you can't do both, at least do one. So always start your day with gratitude. So always think of all the things that you have got that you're grateful for. And the reason I say that is because when you start, or when you come from a place of gratitude, you're automatically changing your subconscious dialogue to more positive. So,
Mhm.
and I'm guilty of it sometimes. We wake up, the first thing we do is, even half asleep, we reach for the phone and go, oh, what's on the social media? How many likes have I had? And what's happened while I was asleep, right? And all you're doing is you're starting your day with negativity. You're starting your day with lack.
Mhm.
Change that to start your day with positivity, and gratitude is one of the best ways of doing that.
Mhm.
And then the second thing I would say is, and it'll take time, so don't worry about it too much. Practice it. Practice makes progress, right? So every time you find yourself in that loop of negative thoughts, just stop where you are and just take a step back and question that thought. And what you're going to find is, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. But once you stop that negative thought in its track and you distance yourself from it and you question it, what you'll find is you're again changing your internal dialogue. And you'll not go down that rabbit hole of negativity. You'll be able to pull yourself out and change your mindset from super negative to actually one that sees positive in things. And I think if
Mhm.
people just even do those two things, it'll make a huge difference.
That's super powerful. Thank you so much, Nidhi. Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Take care over there.
Bye.